So last video, I asked you guys to give me some ideas for some questions that you wanted me to cover in some upcoming videos because, well, it is winter here and there's not going to be a lot of riding going on, so we might as well talk about some other things. And one of the things I've been asked to cover in the past, as well as by a few people on this last video, is retirement. So I thought we might take the time to, again, talk about it just a little bit anyway. Now, before we begin, I know that it doesn't really matter what I say here. There are going to be those out here that will tell me and tell you that I did everything wrong and that I should have done it their way. Well, the truth is that there is no right or wrong here, right? The truth is that it's what works for you, right? So what I'm going to do here is share with you what I did, again, and what has worked for me, and then you can make up your own mind on whether you want to do something similar or something completely different. So for me, I decided to retire as soon as I could, and that was actually at 61 years of age. It was in March of 2021. Again, I was 61. I was turning 62 in September, but I just was no longer enjoying my job. It was in the middle of COVID. We were working from home, and again, it just wasn't working for me. So I decided that it was time to bite the bullet and take an early retirement. See, I wanted to be able to go out and ride my motorcycle and travel and do all of the things that both my wife and I want to do while we're still young, right? Or at least relatively young. The longer I waited, well, the more chance that some kind of a physical problem was going to pop up. So in those years between turning 62 and 67, or I know, 66 and 10 months, that is the actual retirement date, but we'll just use 67 as a round number, okay? But anyway, between those years, between 62 and 67, and I still have a little ways to go before I hit that mark, right, I've been able to take a 65-day trip all around this country. I've taken a 50-day trip, headed back up to Alaska again. I've been to Nova Scotia just this last year, as well as numerous other smaller trips. Kathy and I have taken a trip in a truck up to Maine and New England, and we also went down to Texas. Right? And, oh, I forgot, we went to Ireland last year, right? So we've done all kinds of things in those intervening years between 62 and 67. And as I said, that was the whole point of retiring early, is so that we could do those kinds of things and while we still had our health. To back up my decision to retire early, let me give you a few numbers. You see, I just looked this up yesterday, and the average age of death for all people, male and female, is just about 79 years old here in the United States. The average age of death for a male is just about 76 years of age. And I'll use my father as an example. He, like me, retired at 62 years of age. He had 11 good years, and then about 73 years of age, his body started, well, betraying him, right? He started having problems, things that run in his side of the family, that is heart disease and also adult onset diabetes. Now, I've been able to not have those things yet, and I hope to avoid them as long as I possibly can, but of course they are in my genetics. So at 73, my dad had to stop traveling. See, he and my mother were going out and they would take car trips, travel up here, travel around the country to see friends and so forth. So they got to do a lot of great things in those 11 years. But again, at 73, and between then and the time he died at 80, well, it was pretty rough for him. Now, of course, I am doing everything I can to make sure that I don't have the kind of problems that my dad had. I get to the gym on a regular basis. We'll talk about that here in a little bit. I try to eat fairly well. Again, I'm not perfect. You see me out on my trips. I do allow myself to have some fun while I travel. But here at home, I try to eat fairly well. So I'm doing what I can, right, to ward those genetic things off. And I hope I can make it to 90 years old. But look, being realistic, somewhere around 80, maybe 85, that's probably where I'm going to end up. So I guess that brings me to the next point, and that is when I decided to take Social Security. And like retiring at 62, I decided to take Social Security early at 62 years of age. And again, I know some of you are going to start yelling that I'm leaving money on the table, because if I would have waited till 66 and 10 months or 67 years of age, I would have collected $3,400 a month versus $2,500 a month when I'm collecting at 62. But it isn't quite that simple. You see, between the years of 62 and 67, I'm going to collect about $150,000. Right? And even at $900 more a month starting when I'm 67, it would take me until I was 81 years of age to recoup all of that money. And does 81 sound familiar to you? Well, that is about 4 or 5 years past the average life expectancy for a male here in the United States, and it's probably around my life expectancy. As I said, I hope I go farther, but realistically, again, around 80, 85 years of age is when I can expect to kick the bucket. So I really won't be collecting that extra money for very long. Now, on top of that, I also have to make up that $2,500 a month if I don't take the Social Security between 62 and 67. So it's either going to be made up by me continuing to work, which that kind of defeats the point. I'm retiring early so I can go out and ride my motorcycle and travel, not so I can go find a part-time job. If that was my goal, well, then I should just keep working until I was 67 years of age, which again is a valid way to approach it. But for me, I wanted to stop working and go ride my motorcycle. So if I'm not going to continue working or get a part-time job at least, well, then I have to make up that $2,500 a month by pulling it from my savings, pulling it from my 401ks or my other saving vehicles where I'm making interest. So I'm going to be pulling that $150,000 out of savings, again, between 62 and 67. So why do that? Now, of course, for me, that met my goals on what I wanted to do with my retirement years. You may be different, right? You may want to continue working until you're 67. And if that is the case, obviously you're not going to collect because there are restrictions on the amount of money that you can make on top of collecting your Social Security in those early years. And I think right now it's like $22,000, $23,000 a year that you are limited to. Right. So again, if you're going to keep working, well, it doesn't make sense to collect. It only makes sense if you don't want to work, right? And you want to go out and ride your motorcycle around the country. All right, now let's talk about a big one, and that is mindset changes. So when you retire, things obviously are going to be different, right? You are going to be used to a routine. Getting up in the morning, showering, headed to work for, 8 or 9 hours a day, then coming home and trying to work in a trip to the gym, or, maybe it's just relaxing, trying to work in a motorcycle ride on the weekends, right? Things are going to change, right? Obviously, when you retire. So you are no longer going to have a routine. Your time is going to be your own. So if you're the kind of person that doesn't know what to do with themselves, well, then you're going to need to create a routine for yourself. And that's kind of what I have done. Now, my morning routine is typically to get up, make myself some coffee, and watch a few YouTube videos right before I get going. And then somewhere around 9 o'clock, it's time to head to the gym. See, I decided that while I was in my retirement years, the gym was going to become my job. I was going to get in there and keep myself strong, keep myself as fit as I can, so I can continue doing the things that I want to do, like motorcycle riding. Now, I don't go in there and I'm not trying to be a bodybuilder anymore. I'm not trying to get washboard abs. Those days are long gone. Right? What I'm trying to do is keep myself strong and also keep my joints working. Right? Again, so I can go out and do those motorcycle trips. Now, once I get home from the gym, well, then it's time to accomplish something around the house. There are always home projects that need to be done, right? There's always yard work that needs to be done, right? And there are videos to be made, of course. So that's what I do. I get home from my job and then I find something to do. One thing to do every day, right? Around the house, right? Or working on videos. And that might be going shopping with my wife or, something. There's all kinds of things that you can do, but I pick one thing that I'm going to accomplish that day. Now, nowadays, I try not to put any pressure on myself to get these things done. I go and I work on them diligently, but if I don't get them done in one day, well, that's fine. It'll roll over to the next day. Yard work is a great example. It used to be that, when you're out there working, you only have a couple of days on the weekend, so you're doing yard work on one day and then trying to get a motorcycle ride in the next day. Well, now I can go out and I can do 2 or 3 hours of work in the yard, and that can be it. Right? Because I don't want to exhaust myself, right? I don't have this deadline that I have to meet. I can come in and then I can work on something else. I can relax. I can read a book. I can do whatever. I can plan a motorcycle trip, right? I don't need to finish all of these things in one day. Right? I can roll them over if necessary. And another thing that I've really tried to do is to implement some of that Stoic philosophy into my daily life. And that is that I'm not going to worry about things that I can't do anything about. I mean, sure, I have opinions about all of the latest outrages that are going on in the world, but my opinions don't really affect anything other than me, right? So having these strong opinions and feeling that I need to post on Facebook or whatever and express all of my anger and outrage, again, just doesn't do anything except make my life more miserable. So I've really made a strong effort to just let all that shit go. Now, of course, I do know what is going on in the world. I do have my opinions. I'm going to vote my conscience. I'll even talk with my friends who will actually have reasonable discussions. But I know it isn't worth getting into it with people who've already made up their mind and have no room for anything else. All right, so I think that's about it with this video. I just wanted to cover the reasons that I retired early and also the mindset changes that I have tried to implement in my life for retirement. So if you have any other questions, ask them, and I, of course, will try to answer them in the comments, or if there are other things that you want to have discussed, well, go ahead and put them in the comments and we'll see what we can do. All right, guys, as always, well, ride safe if you can, if you're not stuck up here like me in the cold north. And of course, keep squeezing that lemon every day.